It's late, but I want to say welcome to anyone who is out there watching the stream. Want to say welcome to my players. As you can see, we are short some players this evening because, well, we're adults. We have work and lives, and sometimes that interferes with our ability to game. Hopefully, some of the others will be joining us a little bit later. And one thing we're looking forward to, hopefully, our bard will finally show up. So, before we begin the game, let's do a little short recap of where we left off. The party on last week's adventure had taken the stone that they had found down in the caves and began to make their way back through the tunnels so that they could exit the cave system under Westshore and arrive at the church to see if they could find out more about what was going on. They did notice that the captain had been missing. In fact, he'd been missing that entire fight that they had before. Well, on their way back, they ran into a false wall. One that was created by something. Something nasty. Which they soon found out as Oak, attempting to bust through this wall and finally pulling it open, was attacked by a giant spider. They fought the spider, ending its life with a electrified bolt. I believe. What would you call it? I can see. Do you have a name for your tools and trinkets? Oh, I think you're on mute right now. I cannot hear you. All right, we'll have a technical problem there. We'll have to fix. But we the crossbow bolt from Icansea that had sparks shooting out from it slammed home into this spider and laid it low. They then managed to find the captain further into the cave system and found him wrapped up in spider silk, barely alive. They rescued him, brought him back out of the caves to the church, where he was able to be attended to and his life saved. At that point, Dalian presented the box with the stone in it, trying to get some answers. And there was a bit of a personality clash between the father of the church and the rogue and the barbarian that led to some interesting back and forth, shall we say. But it was eventually decided, after tempers cooled, that the group would take the stone to Asteron. Specifically, Dalian, who had been told that she is now bound to it. So she has to take the stone, and the others have agreed to accompany her and keep it safe and out of the hands of anybody else. And as they were leaving the town, that is where we left off. Now, because we are currently short on our players, tonight's session will mostly be a shorter session, dealing with a little bit of travel, perhaps some shenanigans, and hopefully maybe a little bit of revealing of character, backstory, and personality as they interact. We'll see. But without further ado, we will begin The Blackest Heart. All right, we're back. So, you three and your other companions, and Father Dimspoon, who has a horse with the wounded bard basically strapped into the saddle that he is leading along, are exiting the town of Westshore, heading to the west towards Asteron. On your way out of the town, you notice that the walls of the town themselves seem to have been torn down in some locations from the fiends when they came through and caused massive destruction. You also notice that there are guards that are finally out there, and they are working on trying to repair the walls, trying to shore up the defenses, and keeping watch on what is going on outside, making sure that nothing comes in and attacks the townsfolk that remain. As you first step out, Father Dimspoon halts you all and pulls out a map, which is what you can see before you in Roll20, where you can see the town of Westshore on the map here, and the capital city of Asteron, way over here on this side. He explains to you that there's a couple different possible pathways you can take. You can take this road coming off of Westshore on the west-hand side that leads to this small village, which will save you some time in travel due to it being a decent little road, and you don't have to fight through any of the more difficult terrain. You can attempt to walk along the river, which will be not as difficult as going through the forests, and being that it is open fields in most of this area, a fairly decent pace, but you will eventually come upon some more hilly and heavily forested areas, which will make it difficult to pass through. Overall, no matter which pathway you take, you're probably going to take about 25 to 26 days to get from Westshore to Asteron. Not only that, but there are lots and lots of dangers out in these woods, he explains. There are beasts, many different types. Some are big, some are small. Some are docile and hunted for their meat, while others are the ones that are doing the hunting. He says it's also not uncommon in these parts to come across bandits, sometimes orcs or goblinoids of some type, and occasionally other strange creatures, which is why he tends to stick mostly in town himself. He does say that of the two main choices, which you can always try to forge your own path, but the two main choices, the road or the river, the road would typically be safer from beasts, but the river provides you a little bit longer of a clear path through the terrain. So that is what he explains to you, and he leaves it up to you to decide which pathway you would find best. But before you do, I would like each of you to give me a perception check, please.
Where are my little character bobbies?
You have to click on your character. All of the characters are actually in the lower right corner of the map.
Yeah, I just have to find it.
Yeah, I think yours is right down at the bottom.
There it is.
I gotta reload Roll20.
All right.
Cause
Yeah, computers, they like to do that to you.
yeah.
All right, so
Maybe I don't have to.
we'll wait for Oak to get...
No, wait, go ahead.
Go ahead. All right.
My computer's taking its sweet time.
Okay. Well, it's not too difficult to actually notice this, And Dalian, you happen to notice it as you're walking, as you're standing there just outside of the town and trying to look at the map. You look up and you notice perched on one of the wood walls of the town, a portion that still is standing, is what looks like a crow or a raven. Jet black, silky, shiny feathers, beautiful looking bird, but strange, as its beak is blood red. Not something you typically see. Now,
Can I
yes, go ahead.
can I whistle slightly and have it perch on my shoulder?
Okay, give me a persuasion check.
Oh, that's so cruel. I got a 19.
Okay, it cocks its head, looks down at you, gives out a loud "Caw!" and takes off, flaps its wings, and swoops straight towards you, pulling up at the last second and lighting at your shoulder. Now, you can all roll perception checks if you will at this point.
Just got a little perch better. Hey, it wasn't
All right.
bad.
No, no,
You got more than half.
Yeah, you too, Dalian.
Oh, I still have to do it? Okay,
Yep.
my bad. 18.
18. Okay, all three of you notice.
Oh, wow. Oak notices something.
Okay, all three of you notice that on its leg there seems to be something tied to it. Looks like parchment.
I'll take it off and just read it.
Okay. You take it off. You look at it, and
I'll read it to myself for now until I actually know what it says.
okay. You take it off, and I will whisper a message to you on roll 20.
This burp
And that is all that you get of that. At that point, the father, I can see. Well, while you were looking around, and you notice the note attached to the raven's leg, you also notice Father Dimspoon looking at the map intently, and one of his hands he is reached up by his neck to something that you've seen every time you've seen him, a pendant that hangs around his neck. Looks like a locket of some kind. And he's just kind of holding it and rubbing it. And then he takes a second, closes his eyes. He opens it up and looks at it. Closes his eyes again, closes the locket back up and puts it back. And then he turns and says, "We should get going. The sooner the better. Which path would you guys like to take? I mean, really, yeah, I'm more focused on making sure that this young bard is, as comfortable as can be, and that their wounds don't open up while we travel. So I really need to focus on that. You can decide which path would be best."
Oak goes up to the priest dude and holds out his hand for the map.
He gladly hands the map over to you.
And Oak, he looks at it and he's like, "Okay, I think we should take the river path. I know the land pretty well. I've traveled through there, so I should be able to get us to the capital, no problem."
Okay. Is there any question or debate from anyone? Excuse me. From anyone else?
Once Stallion is done scribbling on the note and seems to tie the note, as well as the rag she had taken from the captain earlier around the bird's leg, she will actually mention that perhaps going to the town as quick as possible would be best, just to make sure we have enough supplies for the rest of the trip, seeing how long it's going to take.
Well, I can always. I know how to hunt for food, and I can find us fresh water.
Do we have enough medicine for the injured?
Yes. Well, what we have, we do not have anything more advanced than this. And the father, opens up what looks like a kind of a roll, a cloth roll that has some what look to be kind of crude medical instruments in there, but also some vials and jars of different tinctures. In fact, I can see you're proficient with alchemy. Go ahead and give me a roll for your alchemy. So, and that would basically it's going to be for alchemy. I'll give it a wisdom plus your proficiency bonus.
Not great.
Not great. Okay. So you can tell that there definitely some different kinds of medicinal herbs that have been turned into different tinctures or balms, but there doesn't seem to be a wide variety of them. There's quite a bit, but it all seems to be relatively similar, and perhaps even from the same kind of plant or the same process. So with the limited amount of knowledge that you were able to remember about those things when you looked at it, that's what you got from it. Is that yeah, these are definitely some healing ointments and supplies. Plus, you've known Father Dimspoon long enough to know that he does have his own healing magic, but he's basically been burning all that over the last day and a half or so, just trying to keep people alive, and especially this bard who suffered, pretty much the worst of the injuries that had been seen. Additionally, since the bard's wounds are infected, and it seems to slowly be getting worse and worse, the father has told you guys that this is one reason why we need to get to Asteron, because you need the advanced healing magics and medicines that would be available there, because there's nothing that he knows of in his experience that would be able to help this poor young bard. But other than that, the rest of your supplies, it seems like you've got plenty of medical supplies for the bard, and actually enough, looks like to deal with the minor, a few minor scrapes and cuts and bruises here and there.
If that's the case, then we'll go with Oak's idea, or at least I vote for it.
I think we should take the river. We could probably find a boat that's a lot faster than walking regardless.
Is the river deep enough to use a boat?
The river is deep enough to use a boat. However, the problem is that the river is actually going towards Westshore, so you would have to be paddling upriver. The way this river works, I will give you some lines to see, is it actually flows down from some mountains. Let me get the right color here. Here we go. Flows down from some mountains all the way down this way, like this, and then splits off into two directions. One going straight to the ocean, one going all the way like that towards Westshore, and then eventually past Westshore out to the ocean.
Well, never mind then.
Although Oak does have a point, it wouldn't be a bad idea to follow the river. Bandits are less likely to attack on a riverbed simply because of the unknown circumstances of possibly slipping and drowning. that or losing the loot in the process.
True. Okay. And there are places, in fact, you can see, which Father Dimspoon points out, the lake right here is actually, it's fairly large. Basically, each one of these hexes is approximately 24 to 30 miles across. So this lake is quite a big size. And with that,
Galleon,
and there you could potentially take a boat across that, would save you some time. But trying to fight up the river, not quite as much.
Galleon would actually, uh, while he's pointing this out on the map and mentions the lake, would slightly, like, flinch back a little bit and go, is there any chance we can just walk around the lake?
Yes, it may take a bit longer, but yes, that could be done.
I would rather do that. She just... Galleon is very off-put by the idea of having to go across the lake.
Okay. So we have our first phobia, I see.
She can't swim.
All right. Father
So the
Dimspoon.
trip
Father
here...
Dimspoon notes that and wonders if he brought some cement shoes. No. All right. Just joking. Just joking. All right.
The
So.
boat right here was terrifying enough for her.
Right, so, you guys have chosen to follow along the river. As you do, right now it is already about 2 to 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon. So, as you're going through, you're probably only going to get about 5 hours of travel before it starts to get really dark. It is basically the first day of what you would call spring. So the days are getting longer.
That's still a good
But
amount of travel, though.
yeah,
Like,
it is,
you
but
can go a full mile within like 10 to 15 minutes.
yes and no. Not if you're walking on a sidewalk, yeah. If you're walking through
Bushes.
natural terrain, not so much.
Move
But
faster.
you figure that you guys can get a good 10-15 miles before the sun starts going down.
Just let the
And
wall of muscle walk through first, and he'll flatten the terrain for everyone.
there you go. Make it a little easier, right?
Exactly.
So,
Has the bird left?
yes, as soon as
Okay.
you tied the note to it, and the cloth as well, it gave a caw and took off.
Okay.
And it actually roll a dexterity check.
Why?
Just straight
You're a
dexterity.
rogue. You're great at dexterity.
Yeah, you should. This should be no problem for you.
Can I just roll the saves?
It's not a save. It's just a dexterity check. Actually,
Okay.
it would be acrobatics, is what I'll call it, or acrobatics or athletics, whichever one is better for you. You can choose.
I guess acrobatics have a +2 in that.
All right.
I'm just trying to figure out. 1d20 plus 2?
Yeah. /R space 1d20 plus 2.
8.
8. Okay. As it takes off, it spreads its wings as it jumps
And
off your
smacks your
shoulder,
face.
and it smacks you right in the face with one of its wings.
I'm not even surprised.
And,
Honestly, she would be used to that.
yeah, and it
The
and
bird
it
isn't
takes,
exactly coherent.
yeah, and it takes off, circles above for a little bit, and then seems to head northeast.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys have, a good amount of time to travel before it gets dark, but you're gonna want to make sure that you make camp before you run out of light, because, well, actually, all of you have dark vision, don't you?
Does I can see have dark vision?
That's what I'm wondering off the top of my head. I think he does.
I know Oak, myself, the wood elf that's not actually here,
Okay,
and
what was that I can see?
I have dark vision.
Okay, so yes, all three of you have dark vision. Okay, so you you could push on as it got darker if you so chose, but you are also dragging along. Actually, not one but two horses. One has got the bard, kind of secured on its back, and the other has supplies, uh, food, camping gear, anything else you want to store. It's basically like a pack mule. And Father Dimspoon, you wouldn't think as a human that he probably can see in the dark too well, and neither can the horses. So you probably are going to want to make sure you make camp before it gets too dark outside.
Would Oak be able to find them a good camping spot?
Give me a survival check. Absolutely. Along the river, it's actually quite nice travel for this day. You guys are walking along. The sun is out. It's actually, become a quite beautiful evening. You can see, there's a light breeze, not enough to cause you any problems, but enough to just bring a nice little cool air flow past you to help get rid of any sweat. You also hear some birds chirping as you're walking through past the trees. You see the stream or the river flowing. You can hear it babbling as it's going along. Occasionally you might see a fish jump. And as you're coming along, you eventually see what looks like a nice little rise near the river. And it actually looks like it may have been used as a camp before. It's fairly flat, and there looks to be some remnants of what was possibly a campfire at one point in the middle, but it's all just some ashes and burned out. It just looks like it's been cleared out a little bit.
How long ago?
You'd have to give me a survival check.
I don't have Oh, you do it.
Nah, Oak isn't interested.
I don't have survival.
Well, you can't do everything.
Just because you're not proficient doesn't mean you can't roll a survival check.
Yeah, you can always try. It's just not going to be easy if you're not
I
proficient.
can try.
I mean,
Only
Oak is
because...
-1 to wisdom, and he's proficient with survival, so...
Hey?
Does the +1 in survival count?
Yeah, it's because it's based off your ability score. Okay, you're just not
7.
proficient in it. Okay, so Dalian goes to kind of inspect what is the fire area, and you guys ever seen Year One with
No.
Jack Black?
No.
No. Well, basically, there's a scene where he starts doing some tracking, trying to figure things out.
Well, because all she would do is just go over to the campfire and nudge it with her foot.
I know, but
he
he picks something off the ground, eating it, and starts going, yes, male and a female walked that way. One big, and he's like, oh no, I was wrong. That's bear poop. Dalian, basically, she kicks the fire a little bit, and she is just as clueless about it as Jack Black was in that movie.
It's better to try and check than not at all, because a lot of big camps get set up to be jumped.
You can always check. Now, it seems like to you, Oak, that this is a pretty decent campsite. A good spot for the night. You guys can stop here if you wish. You can try to push on.
I think this is as good a place as any.
Yeah.
Right. So, you guys going to set up camp then?
Sure.
All right. So, You set up your camp.
And once we're done doing that, Oak is going to go over to the river to see if he can get any fish for dinner, so they don't have to use their rations.
Excellent. Go ahead, and it's actually fairly easy because this is fairly abundant wildlife in the area, including fish in this river. I mean, it's not too hard. So give me a survival check, but the DC is not very high. You did it. So
Yay!
you managed to actually pull out two relatively decent sized fish. Kind
What
of
did I miss?
kind of look like bass. Fairly large.
Pull
And
them out of the water?
Probably.
yeah, Oak's got some
Go
skills.
Oak.
And you bring them up, and now you guys have fresh fish for dinner if you want.
Told you I'd get us food.
While
Can-
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can Dalian glance around to see if there's any, like, berries or nuts? She's not used to meat.
Berries or nuts? Well, you can definitely try. Go ahead and give me. It would be investigation.
Thank God. God damn it!
Hey, Roll20 said no. It happens. It
Okay,
happens.
I'm skipping dinner.
Oak will see that Dalian is a little not
Helpless?
wanting the fish,
Yeah.
and try to look for some berries for her.
Okay.
Because,
While Oak is out looking,
mhm.
Father Dimspoon digs around in one of the packs on the horses, comes up to Dalian, and hands her a small cloth that is, got something wrapped in it. It says, "Here you are. I know that you will like this." And he has a similar one that he takes, and he goes and sits down on a rock that seems to have been placed, as well as a few other rocks, about 5 to 6 feet away from where it looks like the fire had been placed. And he sets it down his lap and opens up and begins to eat. And it is actually food that you are very familiar with, Dalian. It looks like, several different berries and other things that you actually would attribute to what drow normally eat.
How the fuck does he have drow food?
Questions.
And it's very. I mean, it looks like some of it. Some of it looks like I said, there's berries. Some of it looks like a cheese. It's actually made from a fungus. As part of it that
Yep,
is
that was
found. Yeah, it's found in the Underdark. It is also found near the surface, near caves, but it is in great supply in the Underdark, and so it is used to help make a really fine cheese that is one of the staples that is served.
She would have opened the cloth and been more than surprised to see he had those exact kinds of things, and would actually go over to him and sit a bit, not next to him, but a little bit of ways, at least out of arm distance,
Mm-hmm.
and look at it, then back at the father, and just ask, how do you even have this?
Says,
not in like a rude way, but in a very...
Yeah, and he says, "It's what I got used to eating when I was with my wife." And he kind of looks down. His ears, you kind of notice they get a little teary for a second, but then he kind of chokes it back and he says, "Well, I hope you enjoy." And then he kind of turns
Dalian
away a little
having
bit.
no qualms. Having no qualms about her emotion would be very blunt in the sense of, was she a runaway drow?
he turns and looks at you and says, I'd really rather not talk about it right now. It's too painful.
At that, she would fall silent and just eat next to him quietly.
Can this point Oak just burst out of the bushes, just holding some berries aloft
Yes, absolutely.
in triumph? And he's like, "Huzzah! I have found you your berries!" And then he sees you eating, and he's just like, "Guys, I wanted to not use the rations yet."
You
Father
you can
Dimspoon.
come sit by us and eat the berries too. Berries aren't bad for you.
Yeah,
Father-
but I got them for you.
Then come sit by me and share the berries.
Okay.
Father Dimspoon looks up at Oak and says, I'm sorry. I had them, and I knew it would be something she would eat. I didn't want her to go hungry. And he turns into I can see and says,
Berries.
I've got something for you too, actually, my friend.
I can find the berries.
Why don't you it's a little surprise. One more thing I managed to salvage from your shop. Why don't you dig on the saddlebag on the right side, that horse there.
I'm sorry.
Alright.
Vines and beams for the win.
Dig in the saddlebag.
All right, so you get in there and you see a box. It's taken up most of the space in this saddlebag. It's probably about a good 18 to 20 inches wide, about 6-7 inches deep, and about 4 inches tall. So it's pretty, wide, long, tall, and you know exactly what this is. This is one of your own little inventions, because being one who likes to design and build things, you're not typically one to go camping, but occasionally the need arises, and it's so troublesome setting up a tent all by yourself. Might as well have something that does it for you.
Makes it easier.
So, as you pull this out, you know exactly what to do. It's as simple as setting it down in the area you want, opening the top of the lid, and then pushing the button inside. And if you do so,
Sure.
you two, Dalian and Oak, I can see, put this box down, open it up, press the button, and folding out of it comes some kind of accordion-style metal armatures on cloth, or attached to cloth, that raise up and then angle over to one side and drop down another metal bar into the dirt, and the cloth ends up settling down around it, forming what looks to be a gnome-size tent.
Dalian would be so fascinated by this and would kind of be going over trying to look at the box and poke it a little, because she's not used to at all, ever, whatsoever.
Don't poke my box.
What is it?
Tent.
That is not a
Box.
tent. That is an evil contraption.
You're an evil contraption.
Father Dimspoon actually laughs at that comment out loud, and it's actually surprising. You don't hear him laugh a lot, I can see. He seems to be a very somber fellow for the most part, but he laughed out loud at that comment, and then reaches around into his backpack, pulls out what looks to be a wineskin, and hands it over and says, "Might as well relax for the evening. There's nothing more I can do for our bard friend other than what I've already done to make him comfortable over there in the tent and that I've made. But I desperately need to relax, so I hate to drink alone.
When have you taken to the sauce?
You,
Don't get lost
you've
in the sauce.
you've known him for 6-7 months now, I believe, and you know the Church of Palor is not a strict church when it comes to the enjoyment of spirits. In fact, they are quite fine with it, even among their clergy. It's all part of the beauty of life and enjoying life, as long as it is done in moderation.
Oak sighs heavily, and he's like, "We're wasting supplies on the first night. What are we doing? You guys are such amateurs."
Dahlian, hearing Oak getting annoyed, would just look around, grab the first stick she can find, and just chuck it to
Oak
the
runs
side.
after it. Oak runs after it immediately.
And then she'll turn back to the gnome and just because you're correct doesn't mean you can avoid my question. What is it?
Again, it's a tent. In a box.
That's not just a tent.
It's a tent in a box.
How is it a tent in a box?
It wasn't
Boxes
a
don't
box.
just magically unfold themselves.
It's not magic at all. It's a very simple contraption of springs and levers and tension.
What?
Springs and levers and tension.
You've lost her at this point. She doesn't understand any of that.
Yes.
You know what a spring is.
Like a body of water?
Is that the is I know you tried to show me this once. Is that the one that is round and flat with a hole in it? The metal?
It can be.
Oh.
When
So
compressed,
I'm correct.
it can be.
I still don't get this. What was it called? Science stuff? I still do not quite get it.
She would just point to the priest and go, "I'm not the only one confused."
Good.
No, he's tried to explain it to me before.
It's very complicated.
It is.
Are these common on the surface? Because I've never seen these before.
A tent? You've never seen a tent before?
This? And she'd point back to the box.
Never seen a box before?
No. The thing that came out of the box. The whole thing you're calling a contraption.
The tent. The thing that came out of the box is the tent.
How did it do it by itself?
Like I said, springs. Tension.
Dalian,
I don't know how to explain it any further.
it's something beyond our ken, I think. It is best left to those who are
Back up.
engineers.
What's an engineer?
That's what I can see is. He was hired to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Also, I can barely hear you.
Yeah,
I was an engineer.
There you go.
there we go. Much better.
She still doesn't understand what an engineer is, though.
Can I make an intelligence check to see if Oak actually brings the stick back?
Yes, go ahead, do that.
Correct stick.
The correct stick. You might bring a different stick,
Survival
who
check
knows?
to find the right one. Ooh.
I'm gonna let you
Did we just lose Oak?
decide what you do there, Oak.
There's
He brings back a huge log.
Oh, perfect.
Dalian would just look at Oak and look at the log and then back at Oak's face, point at the log and go, "This isn't what I threw."
It's not?
It's better. He's improved it.
I agree.
She can't even argue with that point.
You done good, Oak.
Yay!
I agree. In fact, why don't you set that down there? We can use that as some perhaps more comfortable seating than these rocks.
The player in me wants to sit it vertically so no one can sit on it.
Drop it. Oak, Drop it.
Oak puts it down.
Good.
She's still baffled by the box.
Have the
She's
fish
never seen stuff like this on the surface before.
Has there been a fire set up and are the fish cooking and stuff?
The fire has not been set yet.
I have artificer infusions,
Oh,
and
yes.
one of my little infusions is going to be it's a lighter,
What?
literally just a lighter.
okay.
Zippo. So I just take out my Zippo and I put kindling on the ground and I just start.
Dalian is so confused, guys.
Oak is kind of fascinated by this because he's only been able to start fires like by hand, without a lighter.
Yeah,
She's so confused.
and there's nothing wrong with that because that is his little tools, his contraptions, as he mentioned, are something you guys have never seen before. These things are a pure wonder. It's as if real magic, actually, existed in our world. David Copperfield making an elephant disappear. If he actually made the elephant really disappear, as opposed to an optical illusion. Yeah, that's what these things are to you guys.
Dalian would go over and point to the thing in his hand now and go, "How did you do that?"
Oak would have gotten super close to the lighter, and while he was lighting the fire, and nearly burn off his eyebrows.
Oh, you know what fire is?
Yes, but it's magic.
No, there's nothing magical about it.
He's right, it's not magic. Normally with magic, you can just snap your fingers or just open your palm.
But it's
You'll
cool
have an
magic.
ember.
It's cooler magic.
We never had things like this in the Underdark. We had lights, but nothing like this.
You don't have any science. Nobody in the STEM fields in the Underdark.
Nobody in the what?
Oh lord.
Yes,
I know what a stem is. It's something a flower grows on.
Very good, Oak.
yes,
Very good.
there is not much exploration in your field in the Underdark. It is they mostly rely on intrigue and magical
And the suffering of
powers.
others.
Yes, and magical power to make their world go round.
Inspires.
And Dalian, give me an
lots of
insight check.
spiders.
Well, this
Huh?
is happening. Oak is starting to
Insight
cook the
check.
fish.
Yep, insight check, Dalian.
Me?
Yes.
Oh. 21.
Jesus.
You
She has
Ac-
great insight.
you actually kind of are surprised because based on what Father Dimspoon is saying, you get the impression that he seems to know a heck of a lot about Draw society, more than you would expect a human to know. More than any human you've met, at least.
She would actually start to get really perplexed, but honestly impressed because like you said, nobody has bothered to know about the Drows aside from, oh, they're just all murderous monsters, which isn't wrong. So she would actually look at the father surprised and just kind of tilt her head, but she's not going to ask questions because he already said he doesn't want to talk about it.
As you guys finish getting the fire started, cooking the
Dalian
fish,
Confused to all hell
Eat-
about everything.
you finish getting the fish cooked, you prepare your meals, and you enjoy what's a fairly quiet evening as the sun dips below the horizon.
As the meals are passed out, the fish is distributed, Oak actually takes a surprisingly tiny amount, and he kind of hunches over while he's eating, like he's protecting his food.
Okay, prison food, gotcha. Prison eating.
And he's
You-
also doing like this shifting side glance while everyone's eating. He's just like, he's like really nervous for some
Okay.
reason.
Yeah, You
Oh,
caught plenty
just
of
eat the
fish.
fish.
Well, you can have more.
And I'm not going to eat the fish.
No,
I'm sticking to my berries.
Go ahead. It's fine.
She's
Just
not a
eat the fish.
pescatarian. She's just a vegetarian, which is by far the worst option.
Well, I
As
mean,
the subway gets handed in.
Right.
I get a giant sandwich.
Where's mine? Come on.
Right.
All right.
Well, sadly, you are states away.
That's
so-
all
Have
right.
to share the class.
Yeah, I know. So the sun is finally passing below the last traces of it, going behind the horizon. Still some light in the sky that comes up, but it is getting pretty dark now, pretty quick. How would you guys like to handle watches during the night?
Well, I don't have to sleep, period. So
Yes
I
and
just
no.
meditate.
Meditate for 4 hours.
4 hours of
And
meditation.
even then, drows don't enter deep meditation. They only ever enter light meditation. So she's still completely aware of her surroundings.
But
Yeah, you can watch.
but it is at least this the way I always play that with previous editions and fifth edition is that elves that have that elven trance feature of being able to meditate is basically equivalent of you really only need 4 hours of of inactivity, so to speak, as opposed to the 8 that everyone else needs. So you still need 4 hours, and yes, you're meditating, but you really need 4 hours of calm and peace in order
Which
to.
she would get during when nothing's happening at night while she's keeping watch.
Right. However, if you are the only one keeping watch during that time, and something happens during your 4 hours of time that has interrupted your meditation, and you
I
do
mean,
not get a
let's be
full
real.
rest.
It's not like she ever sleeps anyway.
Well, per the game rules.
How about this? Oak, since you've got to meditate, Oak will take the first 4 hours, and then you can take the rest.
Sounds good.
There you go.
Perfect. Full night's sleep for me.
Yes.
In my tent that goes in a
Can
box.
you still explain what that is, though?
No.
It's a box. Can you at least explain how it works?
It folds up into the box.
Cool
And when I
magic.
want it to come out,
How?
it unfolds out of the box.
How?
Cool magic.
Magic. We'll just say magic.
It's better
practical
than magic, though.
She would just squint at the gnome and point at him before dropping the subject. Because her brain hurts now.
Oh. I don't have any aspirin.
All right. So, Oak, you're taking the first watch.
Yes.
Go ahead for the first 4 hours of watch. Give me a perception check. Okay.
Hey!
You don't notice anything out of the ordinary during the time that you're up on watch. It's actually quite beautiful out. Look up, you see the stars can be clearly seen tonight. It doesn't seem like there are any clouds, and if there are some, they're not over where you are.
Mhm.
So you can see all the constellations. It's just quiet with some sounds of the night. Other than that, it's just a beautiful evening.
Oak tries to connect the dots with the
All
stars.
Oak manages to make a wolf, make a picture of that fish that you just ate, a couple other things. And now, Dalian, it is your turn on watch. Go ahead and give me a perception check. And you're on mute.
Sorry.
There you
I
go.
was... People. Eh.
All right. You don't notice anything on your time either. You're mostly focusing inward, keeping some of your awareness outward to make sure that if anything approaches the campsite, you'd be aware. Nothing seems to. You guys wake up in the morning. All seems well. And you begin to pack up and head out for your next day of journey. As you're continuing along the river, the next 2 days are fairly uneventful. It's mostly just trudging along. Weather seems to be holding. You haven't run into anybody or anything. It's almost like you're just taking a nice little nature hike as you're going through.
Cue Dalian's boredness and her whistling.
Whenever mealtime comes around,
Not like that.
no, Oak will take it's still a relatively small amount of food and just kind of like guard it as he's eating it. Like he's just really paranoid.
Okay. Alright, so Oak is paranoid eating every mealtime. Yes. Eventually,
Dalian would be trying to get a little more out of the priest each time. Not a lot, just a tiny bit.
Then go ahead and give me, because it'll have been 3 days now, because another day passes, pretty much the same. Give me 3 persuasion checks. Okay.
Okay, no.
You do manage to not really. He doesn't really say anything specifically about it, but you manage to get him to kind of accidentally slip a couple things as you're just talking in general. Mostly, it's just a drow word here or there that just pops into his speaking pattern. He seems to be a little more relaxed about you kind of asking questions about the topic, but he's not really giving up much at this time.
Could I ask in Drow specifically, now that I know he knows a few words here and there, just how much did he lose because of my people?
He actually smiles at you when you say that, and he says, I lost nothing because of your people. I gained something.
No.
And that's all he says on that. As that next day passes, you guys finally come to sight of a lake. Looks like you can kind of tell, but it still seems to be a little ways off. But it's now in your range of vision. And as you get closer and closer, you start to see a little bit more movement in the clouds as the wind begins to pick up. And the weather starts to slowly turn, getting a little bit grayer out. Looks like it might have a light shower, light storm. Nothing major, perhaps. You can't quite tell. But it looks like some rain is going to be rolling in by the time you hit the shore of the lake.
We should find a rock to hide under or a cave to go in.
Would Oak know of any caves around this area?
You have been kind of making your home in general in this area of the world.
Mhm.
So you would know that this lake and most of the lakes that you've seen, smaller and bigger, are typically in natural depressions in the earth, and
Mhm.
that many times there's more rolling hills and sometimes even decent sized ones nearby, and that's just happens to be where the water collected was in that natural depression, and that it's not uncommon to find caves around those areas because of the natural uh, change in elevation over the land in that area. So I could say you can either give me a survival or an investigation check, whichever you prefer,
Sir.
to kind of look for signs of caves or search for one. Okay.
Could she roll both and go with the highest?
Well, she did roll both because that's how it's set up. But uh, once again, this isn't too difficult because for you because you've been living around this. You've looked for the telltale signs before,
Yeah.
and you do manage to see as you're getting closer to the lake and the hills are starting to come into play a little bit. You do manage to see a almost like a shallow ravine that you're pretty sure that there's probably going to be some kind of caves in there. Whether or not there's any animals residing in those caves, you know, you don't know that right now. But there's probably some caves in that area.
Oak will point this out to everyone and say, "I think we should go over there, see if we can find some shelter for the storm, during the storm." Everyone agree with that?
I have a tent in a box.
Yeah, but
You don't need to tell me how that works.
not everyone has a tent in a box, and not everyone can fit inside your tent of a box.
Good. I guess we'll go to the shelter.
All right. As you are walking in that direction, which actually is taking you down a little bit towards the south, okay, because you are on the south side of the river initially, so you're actually now kind of walking away from it a little bit. And as you are heading in that direction, I need everyone to give me a perception check, please. All right.
22.
Both Dalian and I can see. As you're coming towards this shallow ravine, you happen to look back to the west a little bit towards the lake. And it looks like in a few trees that are around the edges of the lake, there's looks like some kind of structure in and amongst those trees.
I don't trust it.
It's a little far away to tell exactly what it is, but there's definitely something there that is it's not natural. It's man-made.
She would tap I can see's shoulder with a finger and gesture to it just to make sure he's seeing the same thing she is.
You
I
might be.
gesture in acknowledgement.
All right. So you
She
guys see
would
that, and you see the ravine. Uh, you can continue on down into the ravine, look for caves. You can go
can she
investigate.
ask can she ask the priest if he knows of any old city structures or the like in having been built in this area before?
Yes, you can ask.
If they pointed it out to Oak, would Oak know of any structures nearby?
Yes, Oak would. Oak knows Oak knows for a fact because Oak has been here before.
Ooh.
You
Mass
haven't
murder
really
next.
paid attention to this ravine before, and you'd forgotten that there is actually a small house that is right on the shore of that lake and in those trees. And when I can see and Dalian point that out to you over there, you kind of have a, you know, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is. Now, you've never actually approached it and seen who lives there, but you have seen smoke come out of a chimney there before, and light coming from the windows. Uh, so it's someone definitely lives there. You just haven't taken the time to go investigate.
Yeah.
You were having more fun just exploring the wilderness.
Oak will kind of be like, "Oh yeah, that house, that thing. Um, I'm pretty sure somebody lives there. I'm not sure who, but I'd rather stay in the ravine because I don't like having.
I'd rather not be murdered in my sleep.
I don't want to have some. I like open stars stuff.
I don't like being confined.
All right, so you head further into the ravine.
I can see.
Mm-hmm.
You're more understanding of people. What's your opinion on the house?
The look on your face.
I would say me and people have gotten quite along the last few years.
You were able to live in a village without being hunted out.
Yeah, you live in a village.
Define not getting hunted out.
Chased off with pitchforks and torches, or having somebody put a hit on your head trying to kill you in your sleep.
Physically, no. Professionally, yes.
Not getting beaten up.
Or have your food poisoned just because you walk into a tavern.
Well, you don't know the plight of the little people.
Not having everyone flinch at your face because you look like a monster.
And hearing that, Dalian would just look at Oak and go, "You don't look like a monster.
I don't.
You look like a puppy."
And his eyes just go wide, and you can swear there are sparkles in them. And he wants to hug you,
Please, no physical contact.
but he knows that you prefer not to have the physical contact, so he'll just be like, "Thank you."
Well, if you really want me to, I can go and maybe sneak around and look at the house.
Or you could knock on
Or
the
you
door.
could knock on the door.
Or how about I look at the window before I knock on the door to make sure there isn't like a hag or something in there?
That works too.
What? Wait, what?
A hag.
I only heard half of your sentence because you cut out.
I said, or I could go up to the house, look in the window, and try to see if there's something like a hag in there before I just start knocking on doors.
That too.
Well,
Or we can continue to the ravine.
I'd rather not impose on whoever is in there, be it a hag or not.
Well, now I'm kind of curious.
it's
Does the
entirely
priest
up to
know
you
who lives
guys.
there?
He says, "No, I've actually never taken this specific route before. Uh, I've gone by boat around to the ocean to Asteron. I've also actually taken the road south from Westshore and then cut through the forests. Uh, I've never actually been to the lake.
Is it haunted?
The entire
No.
lake.
No, no. Uh, as far
Ghosts of
as
millions of dead fish.
as far as I know, it's actually reasonably well traveled during the high point of the trading season. But as far as anyone living there, I don't know.
So the chances of somebody just killing us if we go up to the house are high.
Or it
I'm-
could be somebody
yeah.
like you who just doesn't care for civilization. Just wants to be left alone.
Well,
She would just
Could-
nod
could
at
be.
if
that
they
and
didn't
agree.
care for civilization, then why would they build a house? They can just like live in a tent and walk around and stuff.
Because they can't invent a tent and box.
And Father
And
Dims,
that
Father
Valiant would
Dims,
just like.
Father Dimspoon turns to Oak and says, "Yes, Oak. Not not everyone is as skilled as you in the outdoors, and some of us prefer more uh, creature comforts, like roofs and a fireplace and like a full bed. Uh, we're not as adept at living in nature as you are."
I
Beds are
mean,
always too
to each their
squishy.
own, but I don't understand the roof concept. I mean, I understand a tent, but like wood over your head that isn't a tree, it's just not my style, dude.
It's not for everyone.
I personally prefer the ground to sleep on. I'm used to it.
So, do you guys continue into the ravine?
I will venture forth towards the house.
Oak is going towards the ravine because he's just like, I'm just gonna go
Okay.
set a camp.
Oh,
Okay.
stop. If the guy with the tent in a
the
box
party
gets
split
killed,
apart.
I have a feeling we're all screwed.
Fine.
If I die, you'll never learn my secrets.
And at that, she
know
would
the
just
source
point
of
at the
cool
gnome and
magic.
go with the gnome.
Fine, we'll go with a gnome. I must know the source of the cool magic.
All right.
I just want to know how you make it.
I can see an Oak
I'll go
start heading to the house. You're gonna go too?
and drag the priest with me from a slight distance.
Okay. Well, he's kind of dragging the horses, so basically everyone's going, including the two horses,
And the
towards this house.
unconscious body.
Yes, the unconscious bard on the back of the horse. And to be fair, the bard hasn't been unconscious the entire trip. They've not been very aware. They've been out of it uh, most of the time, and they have been, sleeping or unconscious. But there does seem to be a few moments where
Hello, Clicker.
you will hear the bard mumble something as they try to open their eyes and focus on what's about them, but just can't seem to quite find the strength to fully be aware of their surroundings. But you're all heading towards this house, and as you're approaching, you notice that the home, which you'll be able to see here in just a second.
I got it.
The fact that there's a map worries me. Like, clearly something bad is gonna happen if there's a map, guys.
You can see the home itself, and you'll notice it
And now nothing is loading.
because of the clouds. There have been the light is starting to dim a little bit, and it's coming mostly from behind you, towards the east, where the sun is still has some isn't fully covered by the clouds yet. Most of the clouds are coming from the west, over the lake towards you. So the house, which the lake is a good 50 feet beyond it, the house itself sits there we go, right here, and you can see a couple windows on the front
I'm gonna have to
with
back
light.
out and go back in. Nothing's loading for me.
Okay. But there are some windows with light going through. Other than that, it just looks like a simple home. You can see that there must be some kind of light inside as well. It's not dark in there. So there is some kind of light. You just can't quite make out all of it because all you can see through the windows and kind of see a little bit of it, but you can't make out everything in there from the distance you're at, which you're about a good 30, 40 feet away from the front door.
I vote the gnome goes not and knocks.
I vote the gnome too.
I vote. I don't care what you vote. I'm going to go anyway.
Yay!
All
We
right.
won.
So
Democracy at its finest.
So go ahead and move yourself up towards the front door. It's actually on the left there. You can kind of see the wood.
I'm peeking in windows first.
Are you going to peek in the windows first? Okay. And can everyone else, can you actually see the page? Is it coming in for you?
I can.
Darlene? No? Alright, hold on. Let me see. Let me double check something on your icon real quick. Make sure.
Hang on. I also
no.
have 2 people
There
on
we go.
gaming consoles, so we're trying to hook me up to the Ethernet to see if that might help.
Well, part of I just had to fix something on your icon. The has site box for some reason unchecked itself. So either that or I didn't save it last time I checked it. So you should have it next time if you do a refresh.
Is it supposed to be only some of it is visible?
Yeah.
Of the interior of the house, yes.
Okay.
Because you can't
Just
see
shows
through
what your
walls.
icon- Yeah, that's just what you can see.
Oak
Okay.
is gonna hang back because he doesn't really want to startle whoever is in there.
And
Having the gnome and the drow go up to the door. Great idea.
and Father Dimspoon's right there with you. He's just hanging back with the horses and you. As well as the rest of the members of your party are there with you as well. They've just been kind of chilling, hanging back the whole trip. And it's been pleasant. Everyone's been working
I'm gonna hang with the father and Oak. Because
Okay.
I'm pretty sure having a drow at your doors, hi, great way they're gonna
We're
do
not really here to kill you.
that, pretty much. Hence why she'll stay back too.
Good idea.
Oak is gonna like put an arm on the father's shoulder and just kind of lean on him.
He slumps a little bit under the your weight as you put a little bit of your weight on him because you're a pretty large, strong, heavy individual, and he is not.
Yeah. That's
so
why
he
he's doing this.
so he's like he kind of slumps a little bit. He's like,
She would
okay.
turn and see
Still
Oak
holding a bit
slumping
of
on
a
the
grudge
priest,
for the patronizing.
and just look at Oak and go,
hold on, Dolly, in a second. What was that, Oak?
He's still Oak still holds a grudge for a tiny grudge for the how he was patronized earlier.
Okay. All right. So,
Dalian?
well, hold on one second, Dolly. I can see.
Yeah.
I need a perception check from you as you're looking in the windows.
Oh, not good.
All right. So, what you are able to make out as you look through the windows,
Can't quite pull myself up on the ledge.
yeah, you don't get the best angle. They're more at a human height, so they're not really designed for shorter individuals to get the full view. But you can see some things. You see in the far corner there looks to be, you see kind of the top half of a door, as well as a bookshelf. You also see what looks like a rack that has some weapons on it. Right now, there's no weapons really on it, except for a quiver with a couple arrows in it, and looks like a dagger just hanging there. But there seems to be a couple other slots, maybe a spot for a bow, maybe another quiver or two.
Oh, an armory.
And maybe a sword. Who knows? But that's what you see there. And you can also see that there is what looks to be a chimney going up. So what must be a fireplace, you just can't quite get the angle to see the fireplace itself. But you definitely can see the glow, what must be the fire in that fireplace.
All right. Well,
You
I'm
don't
going
see
to
any movement inside.
just assume that this is like a hunter's cabin.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna go up and knock on the door.
All right. You knock on the door.
I'm on the Ethernet.
You knock on the door.
Yep.
And wait for a minute.
Hello.
Nothing.
I kick the door.
You kick the door?
I kick the door.
Like kick it down, or just like
Knock.
kick it?
I
Like
can't kick a door down.
all right. So you give it a mighty kick, or otherwise known as the gnome knock.
Mhm.
30 seconds. Minute. Still nothing.
Oak shouts towards, I can see. Do you want me to throw you through the window?
Dalian would just
What
turn
would
to
you do that
Oak
idea?
and be like, "No, we're trying to not scare people."
I mean, yeah, but it'd be funny.
No.
We're not throwing the gnome through the window, Oak.
Fine.
I try the. Well, first I'd like to inspect.
I mean, I
to see
don't
if
want to hurt the gnome.
it's locked or trapped.
You're gonna check to see if it's locked or trapped. Okay.
Yeah.
So give me an investigation check, please.
Not great.
All right. Seems to be okay, and it doesn't seem to be locked.
I will turn the handle and push the door open.
At
All
that
right.
point, Dalian's just staring at the gnome in disbelief and jogs up to him, cause if he gets hurt, he needs a little backup.
All right. So go ahead and move yourself up next
Just
to him.
walk into somebody's house.
Go ahead and move yourself up next to him. You can just click and drag your character over there. And as you open the door, you now can see the entire interior of the house. So let me just do
Well,
this.
this is cozy looking.
Okay, you should be able to walk into the house now if you want.
Yeah.
All right, you got
Me?
in? Okay. Well, I can see. And you can too, Dalian, if you so choose. But you can
I'm just peeking inside.
but you can see the entire interior now.
Did you say there was another door?
You do see actually two doors now.
All right.
You see, let me move the map just a hair. You see one a little bit to your left of where you're standing,
Another one over
and
here.
then one over on the right.
All right. I'll go to this one and I'll knock on that door.
All right.
Hello. If there's anybody here, we need some medical help.
So you're going to the one on the left or the right? Because you're standing. All right. So you knock on the one on the left next to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you wait a little bit. No answer.
I will open that door.
Okay. When you open that door, inside, you see looks like a wash basin and a bed. Nothing much else in here. It's very sparse.
I guess
We'll go to the
Down-
outside and
Dalian would
knock on that one.
go a little more in, begrudgingly.
While this is going on, Oak is just kind of like impatiently tapping his foot because he's just like, we could be going and setting up camp and getting ready for this storm. And then he just looks up and just tries to determine how much longer they have until the storm hits.
Okay. Oak, you give me a survival check. And I can see you hear nothing at that door when you knock on it.
All right.
Oak, you aren't exactly sure because the wind may be moving a little bit higher or a little bit faster at the higher altitudes, and it's kind of hard because some of the clouds seem to be moving swifter than others, so there might be some kind of layers of different speeds of the wind, so it's making it a little difficult to tell. But you'd guess that you've got at least a good 30 to 45 minutes before you start, having to deal with it.
We'll
But
just
that's just
start
the best
reading
you can.
later.
Yeah, that's just the
Can
best you can
Valiant
guess.
poke her head out and call to Oak to see if there's a stable or some kind of shack near the area?
Yeah, you can absolutely call out. But wait for a second, because I can see you knock at that other door.
Mm-hmm.
No answer there.
Crack her open.
All right, you crack it open. Looks like a little storage area. Not much in there, really.
Hmm.
Uh, couple supplies, but that's about it.
All right.
And when you're in the main room, as you're looking around, you notice that there is a table in one corner, and there seems to be a bunch of different bottles and glass beakers and tubes, as well as plants, different varieties of them. Some of them chopped up. Uh, some things look to be in liquid form in bottles. Some are in other containers where it's got bits and pieces of roots or other plant life held in different jars in there. I mean, it looks like a complete alchemical workstation, but not necessarily alchemy. More kind of a mix between alchemy and herbalism.
Like an apothecary lives here.
That would be your best guess. Is something along those lines. Some kind of maybe homeopathic, healer or medicine. You also notice a table here. It's got one chair, a bowl, and a cup. The bowl and the cup are both empty. They're just sitting there. There's
So you said
a
the fire was going, right?
the fire is going, but it is very low. It is giving off a glow, but not a lot. There is also a comfy chair, and it looks like it has been well worn. Someone definitely spent a lot of time sitting in that chair in front of the fire.
I'm gonna ask Dalian. Go and see if you can get the others in here. I think this building is safe enough. I just don't know where the occupant is.
Dalian would seem a bit unsure and just, are you sure you want us to stay in somebody else's house for the night? What if they come back and think we're robbers? Not that I wouldn't probably steal some of the stuff, but still.
Well, we'll just have to convince them that we're not. We're just looking for shelter from the storm.
You gotta do the talking then. She would step out and call to Oak and the father and wave for them to come over.
All right.
Oak would reluctantly go over.
Okay. So, you all end up heading into the house. Father Dimspiln looks around, and he's just a little shocked that there's no one here with the fire going and everything.
Can Dalian do a investigation or perception check to see how long ago they might have left?
Sure, you can try. Give me an investigation.
12.
You're not exactly sure, but judging by the level of the fire, there's quite a bit of embers and ashes underneath it. It's probably fairly large logs that were in there. This fire was probably started first thing in the morning, tended to, used as a cook fire, and had just really hasn't been tended since then. It's just been kind of burning all day, and it's now at the point where it's pretty low. And you would expect that if someone was wanting to keep this fire going, they would have been here and have at least throwing another log on. So
What about the bowl
maybe
and cup?
bowl in the cup. They're empty. They're clean. They're sitting there. But you would guess based on the fire, it's probably been a good 4 or 5 hours.
They're
That's the
probably
best
out
guess. That's the
hunting.
best guess you can give.
It looks like it's one occupant.
They're
Wouldn't be
they're
too
probably,
worried about a mass of people coming, but yeah, it appears to me, at least, to be just a hunter's cabin.
which means they're probably gonna be coming back sometime soon due to the storm.
Exactly why we should go to the ravine, so we're not imposing on them, and I don't have to sleep under a roof.
You can sleep outside if you want. I prefer to sleep under a roof.
Everyone, give me a perception check, please.
Been rolling mediocre all day.
Yeah. All right. However, it's not too hard to hear. Thus far, you guys have been rolling good enough, even if it has been mediocre, for most of the things that have been coming around. You hear faintly, "Oh there!"
Dalian, well, we're now we're fucked.
Okay, you go in the back storeroom and hide.
Why do I have to hide?
You're a drow.
Yes, because finding
You're
a
a
drow
drow
hiding in a
assassin.
storage room will make
Or-
things look even better.
It'll make it look better than having him come into his house and seeing a drow right there. You
Except
you
if
said
I'm
you wanted me to
hiding,
talk to him first.
clearly I'm doing something wrong.
I'll explain to him why
Dalian
we
has
didn't
a
want
point.
you to be the first
I'll
thing
just
that he
stand
sees.
behind Oak.
Oh, that's fine.
He's big enough, he'll cover me.
"Oh there! What
How
are you doing in my house?"
You're seeking shelter from the storm.
That has yet to come.
It has yet to come. It is imminent.
Do you look
We
outside?
mean no harm. Yes, I look outside. I try to look outside the window.
Okay. You look outside the window, and you see a figure that is standing. I'm just gonna use. I'm gonna use Father Dimspoon's icon to represent where this person is. But you see a figure standing right about there. You can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they have a bow up with an arrow drawn, pointing at the house, and looking at the fact that there are two horses standing right out front, one with a figure laying across it,
That might be them.
and a bunch of movement going on inside their house.
We mean you no harm. We're looking for shelter from the storm. We have an injured party, and we're just trying to keep them dry and safe.
Roll a persuasion check.
I mean, I'm not lying. Hey,
Well, that's why it's not a deception check.
You did perception.
Oh, shite.
Yeah.
Which was persuasion. Double shite.
You should just use perception.
I can look really convincing. I look at you really convincing. But
Says, "Come out of there! Come out of there now!"
yeah, I'll certainly take a step outside.
Dalian would nudge Oak to walk forward so she can stay behind him.
Okay, Oak walks forward and outside.
You just walk right through a window.
Oh, I thought that was the door.
That's all right.
I'm
That's
right
all
in
right.
front of it. All right.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So.
Actually,
Stay
Oak,
behind.
That would have
Oak,
been hilarious.
actually, Oak was. That's the door, right?
Oh, I thought the door was right here.
No,
Oh.
right there. That's the door, and then the other two are windows. And
I'm just gonna chill.
Alright.
You.
he sees you guys coming out of his house, and Father Dimspoon is
so-
coming with you.
Question. I
Yes.
still have, like, my normal dark clothes cloak and the hood and everything up, right?
Sure.
Because she wears that purposely so no one can see what she is.
Mhm.
Okay. Just making sure.
Not a problem. Okay, so he sees you guys come out, and he says, "Kindly be stepping away from my home, would ya?"
Sorry, we were just trying to get away from like the
Hey,
rain that's coming.
I didn't ask you to speak. Just step away to the side.
At
He,
that point, Dalian would just kind of tilt her head and be like, "So no regard for the fact that we're trying to be nice and honest."
he says
Cool.
he says nothing. He's just keeping his eye on you as he circles around towards his front door, standing
We,
outside,
we've
and
disturbed nothing in your house. We've taken nothing.
Except the doors.
yeah,
We've opened the door.
yeah, he's standing just outside his door, still got his bow and arrow trained on you guys, and he looks into the house, looks around a bit, looks back out, and says, "What happened to that one?" Points to the bard on the horse.
He's not dead, if that's what you're wondering.
No,
He
we're
got clawed
trying to
up
keep
and
him.
knocked out.
We're desperately trying to keep him alive before we can get to the big city and get some proper healing on him.
But he's
That's
not
why
dead.
we went into your home, because we thought that was the best place to try to keep him away from the storm.
He's definitely
relaxed.
not dead.
Yeah.
Oh,
He relaxes. He relaxes the string on his bow, slides the arrow back into a quiver on his back, looks
We do have
over,
a
sees
religious man here.
sees Father Dimspoon and recognizes the holy symbol on his clothes. Says, "All right, you got a man of God with you. You can't be all bad."
Oh, you'd be surprised what people of religion might do.
Let's not start fights with people we don't know if they can destroy us yet.
He says, "Just give me a moment." He steps into the house. You see him moving around a little bit. Yeah, you hear him. Almost sounds like he's talking to himself for a bit. You know, kind of like, if they touched anything. And he looks around. He's like, then he comes back to the door. Says, "All right, get your injured friend there. You may as well put him on the bed."
We do appreciate the hospitality.
And not shooting us with an arrow.
That is also a positive thing.
Oak is just kind of just keeping him like keeping to himself and trying to not look intimidating.
Okay. He lets you all in, and he says, "Look, I don't got a lot of food to feed this
We
many."
have our own rations.
Yes, that's not a problem. We can get food for ourselves. We just want some shelter to get out of the rain.
Fair enough. You can stay here for the night, but that's
Oh
it.
yeah, that's plenty.
I mean, I didn't want to impose on you. That's why I suggested we go down to the ravine. And
Oh God, no! I wouldn't want to go down there.
why?
There's a family of wolves that lives down there.
Oh, psh,
Oh, wolves aren't that bad.
I can
Um,
make friends with them quick.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to mess with these ones. They're big.
Can't
Real
be worse
Oh
than
my.
humans.
Yeah, they're bigger than you are. As he looks at Oak.
Direwolves then.
Oak is still
Is
just
that
trying
That
to,
or werewolves.
if that's what they're called? I guess I just try to avoid them.
Oak is still trying to process the fact that this man doesn't think he can befriend those wolves.
Hey, this man has no idea what you are, other than a very large, imposing figure that's got a little bit more point to their teeth and hair than
Yeah.
he's used to seeing. But yeah, other than that, no idea what you can do with wolves. So for him, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm not sure. I wouldn't mess with them. They're I avoid them. Uh, but
Yeah, if you say so.
but let me ask you something.
Oak stops just suddenly, and he's just like, he has this bright idea, and he
Oh
wants to
no!
go.
Light bulb, ding!
And he goes running for the door.
Oh, no. Stay.
But,
No. No.
puppy,
No.
please.
Not right now.
Maybe on the way back we can stop and get a puppy.
And she just gestured to I can see.
But you have to behave.
Wait a second. You're not my mom.
I am your friend and trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, but a little rain never hurt anyone.
It's not the rain
And
I'm worried about.
as you say that, you
It's
start
raining.
to hear raindrops falling on the roof, and they start to get heavier and heavier. It's not an all-out thunderstorm or anything like that, but it is pretty decent amount of rain coming down. You figure that yeah, this is this is something you don't want to be caught out in for too long, because as nice as the weather typically is this time of year, temperature-wise, you still could probably catch catch a cold or catch even hypothermia being out in rain like this, because you just get soaked.
Oak realizes that, and he sighs. He's so
She
sad.
would pull, Dalian will just pull a torch stick from under her cloak that's unlit and just offer it to Oak to nom on.
No, it's okay. I still have the other torch that you gave me. He pulls out that one and he noms on it and he sits by the fireplace.
All right. So
Well, she's still hiding, keeping her head down and hood pulled forward because
Okay.
doesn't want to get stabbed.
So this guy, he says to you, actually looks at Iconcy and says, "So, who are you?"
Well, I am Ike. This is Father Dimspoon. And these are the rest of the party. Some you've already acknowledged. Much to my chagrin, but
Well, it's pleasure
like
to
I
meet
said,
you.
we're trying to bring this little fella to the city. Get we met some rather unsavory bits in Westshore, and we need to not be there. Nobody needs to be there right now.
It's not wrong.
Well, I don't blame you. I'm not much for cities myself.
Neither am I.
I'm Groom, by the way.
Good to meet you, Groom.
Where's your bride?
Not like I haven't heard that one before, young miss. He turns around.
Your lack of tact.
Yeah, he turns around, grabs a log from a little box next to the fireplace, puts it on the fire, starts stoking it a bit. Then he quickly runs outside back over to near the tree that he had been standing at before, and comes back in fairly wet, even though it was only a short run back and forth. But he's got several rabbits that he's got on basically a stick that he has kind of put them, attached them to
Aw,
on his shoulder. That obviously he was out hunting and found himself some rabbits. And he starts setting one up to be cooked in the fireplace, and it's a decent sized fireplace. It's one of those fireplaces that is designed for you to be able to cook in. So it's actually very open. And he's got a metal rod that goes across near the top of it in the inside of the firebox itself. And he basically just starts skinning the rabbits right there in front of the fireplace. And then, once he's got them all field dressed, kind of drapes them over this iron rod. And they begin to hiss and sizzle and cook.
Diane's just sitting in the corner over by Oak, just done with everything. And pretty much trying to keep as small and covered as she can.
Oak kind of notices this, and he just tries to help give her cover. Because he understands not wanting to be seen.
All right. And then Grim says, "So, what did happen to your friend there that you put in the bed?"
Something.
Stuff.
A little secretive about it. It was pretty traumatic. Basically, the whole town got destroyed. Some demons came from underground. And
What?
Yeah, that happened.
that story.
Demons?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did our best to try to help the town, but it was,
Totaled.
yeah. Took refuge in the church.
But
Hence the priest.
what's
I'm
wrong?
surprised that many people actually lived.
What's
You're
wrong
not
with
wrong.
him? You gotta, I mean, no offense, Father, but, I mean, you're a man of God. Can't you just heal him?
Doesn't work that way.
We've tried.
Let
It
me
was
take
a
a
really,
look.
really big one. And it looked kind of scary.
Let me take a look.
How about it?
He walks into his bedroom, where the bard's laying down. Father Dimspoon's pretty much kind of right on his butt there because messing with his patient, so to speak. Shows him the wound. You can see the infection. And Groom kind of grumbles a little bit to himself. Then comes out, walks over to the alchemy table, and he starts messing around and he says, "Any of you know anything about alchemy? I could use a hand here."
Diane would just instantly point at I can see. Because of his weird contraption box thing. And just
Yes.
assumes.
I've been nominated again. Not
Good.
much with democracy in this party.
Get up here, Ike. I could use a hand.
I can see can help
Yeah.
the man who needs.
Go ahead and make a another alchemist kit check. This one with advantage.
What do you want that?
Wisdom plus your proficiency bonus, plus a d20. So just roll that twice and take the highest.
So just to make sure, that would be like the 1d20 plus what your wisdom modifier would be plus your proficiency bonus?
Yeah, so if your
Okay.
wisdom modifier is a +2, and right now your proficiency bonus should be +2, so that would be a 1d20 plus 4.
Okay. Just making sure I understand.
Yep.
Doesn't actually
So-
let me roll just a wisdom. It just roll a save.
Well, just type in -R 1d20 plus, and then whatever your wisdom modifier and your proficiency bonus are added together.
Not good.
Okay, so there's the first one.
Oh,
Oh.
didn't do that right. /R, not R/.
Yeah.
Too much time on Reddit. There we go.
All right.
Cool.
Well, fortunately, you didn't completely botch.
Oh, that's good.
Grim is kind of grumbling. He's happy for the extra help, but he's not sure he's getting all the right things he needs. But eventually, after a good solid 45 minutes of you guys kind of messing around as he's boiling a liquid, adding some leaves here and there. He's asking you to take some of the tinctures and very carefully combine certain portions of them at certain amounts. And eventually, after he's all done, you're left with under a little flame, a candle flame. One of these glass containers has a liquid that is slightly boiling in it. And he says, "All right, we'll just got to give this a few minutes. Might help. Not sure. We'll see."
Can Dalian just start whistling from boredom?
Absolutely. You can whistle if you want.
Oak
If
has
I
been chewing
whistle
on
into
that.
this mic, it's gonna hurt your guys' ears.
Oak has been chewing on that torch stick that Dalian had given him,
Mm-hmm.
and has he like gnawed through it by this?
If
I
you're
would
like
say-
aiming to break it, then yeah. But
I-
if you're just like gnawing on it,
Yeah, he's just like gnawing on it.
I would say by this time, the amount of times you've gnawed on it, the amount of days you've had to travel, you've probably done it some during
Yeah.
then. Yeah, you're probably most of the way through. It's probably getting pretty close to the end of it. All right, so Grim goes ahead and gets his rabbits all finished cooking. Gets himself some food. Says, like I said, I really don't have enough food to feed you all, but you're more than welcome to share what I did bring.
I don't eat meat. I'm not used to it.
No problem. Can't help you there though.
She would actually lean towards Dim Spoon and go, "Do you have any more of the cheese?"
Yes, actually, quite a bit. And he runs outside with he's got his cloak kind of pulled up over on his arms like this, kind of like a makeshift umbrella. Runs out to the horses, who are they're tied up nice, and they don't really care too much. You know, they're getting wet, but it's not a big deal for them. And then, he's out there for just a minute or two, and he comes running back in, and he's not completely soaked, but yeah, he's still pretty wet. But he comes back in, and he's got a couple more of those small cloth pouches, and hands one to you, takes one for himself. And as the evening wears on, eventually Groom goes back to the alchemy table and takes what has now become a much thicker mixture, almost a paste, as pretty much all the liquid has almost boiled off of it from this small candle in that burning that container, causing the liquid to boil. And he takes strips of cloth and basically coats them in it, and then hands them over to Father Dimspoon. Says, "Wrap this around his wound. This is all I can do for you. This'll probably keep you good for at least a few days, maybe a week. I hope it helps." So Father Dimspoon does go indeed and puts one on, as Groom shows him exactly what to do with it. And then the conversation for the rest of the evening just kind of winds down as Grim finds himself a place in the corner, kind of props himself up against the wall a little bit, and says, "Feel free to use the chair if you really need to, or grab some floor. But I'm tired. I'm going to..."
Oak
So,
lays down on the floor and he's just like, okay.
Figuring
like-
at this point it was slightly safe since he's going to be going to sleep. Once she thinks he's asleep, she'd finally take the hood down so she could fix her hair a bit, because keeping the hood up fucks with her ponytail.
it's all about the ponytail.
Priorities.
Yeah.
I'm gonna suggest to the father that he take the chair.
He says, well, "Thank you. Uh, I will. I guess." So he goes ahead and sits in the chair and lays back, and he is out in almost no time flat. It's obvious he's pretty worn thin because he's been spending almost every day on the road. Not not to mention walking along, traveling along, which he's obviously not too used to, but burning through pretty much every spell he's got to just dump all that divine energy into the bard. It seems to be helping a little bit, but again, it's just not, fully breaking that bard out of their condition, and the infection remains.
She's not sleeping or meditating at all. She's just gonna stay up to keep an eye on everything, because
Okay.
unknown house, unknown person, unknown weapons inside said house.
Okay.
Is it still raining when everyone goes to sleep?
Yes, it is.
Except Dalian's still awake to keep an eye on you.
Yes, it
No
it
running
is.
off.
It is raining. It actually gets a little bit worse during the night. Actually, it gets a little harder. You hear more thunder, occasional, uh, occasional flash of lightning in the distance. But eventually, you all drift off to sleep, with the exception of Dalian, who said she was going to stay awake.
For some reason, none of the nights before has Oak snored, but only now does he start snoring.
Oak has an allergy to indoors
Yes.
that causes him to snore, apparently, when he's indoors sleeping. So, morning comes, you wake up.
There's no fresh air.
Yep. Dalian, since you did not sleep last night, you have one level of exhaustion, which basically means you have disadvantage on ability checks. So just ability checks, that's it. As morning comes, Dalian, you notice that Groom is up early. I mean,
And that goes the hood.
yep. He basically it's almost as if he's on a really good rhythm where when he goes to sleep fast, and he wakes up not too long before the sun comes up. It's like it seems like that internal clock just tells him time to get up.
She all night she would have just been playing with one of her daggers. She has nothing else to do.
When Oak gets up, is it still raining?
You're not running
no,
all.
the rain has not completely stopped, but now it is more of a drizzle. It is very light, very drizzle. It is still overcast, but not nearly as bad as it was in the
Oak
evening.
gets up and he dusts himself off because he's been laying on a floor.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't dust himself off if he's laying on like dirt. It's just floor. Gotta get all the civilization off of his pants.
There you go.
And he goes out the door and he heads towards the ravine.
Okay.
Dalian would instantly yell at Oak. We said on the way back.
Yeah, but puppy now.
Oak.
I must talk to my people.
Oak. We don't have the time. We have to get to the city. Or did you forget?
No,
As
but
you
it's still kind of raining.
as
so
you two are having that discussion, Groom is up getting his breakfast ready, and he goes in, checks on the bard, comes back out, wakes up the father, and takes him back into the bedroom and shows, talks to him a little bit, gives him more of those bandages, and says, here you go. Uh, looks like he's doing a little better. And then begins to kind of prepare his own breakfast and offers anyone else anything. Kind of forces all of you that if you were asleep, you're not anymore. Because he's up. He's making sure everyone else is. He's not trying to be quiet. He's like, well, I told you could stay the night. Night's over. Now, if you would, get out of my house, please. He's got a smile on his face, but it's kind of an impatient, like, yeah, I'd rather be alone. Can you guys leave me alone now?
She doesn't care. She'll just walk in the room, grab the bard, and just throw the bard on the horse.
Oak
Like,
is still
she
gonna head towards
understands.
the
Just
ravine.
leave.
He's like, okay, bye, and he heads towards the ravine. He's
Oh.
not being.
Okay.
He wants a dog.
All right.
You're on your own then.
Okay, that's fine.
As Oak is heading towards the ravine, what we are going to do at this point is, since I still have not heard back from our bard player, nor have the others come back online, so I assume that they are still having work issues, at least for your end. So at this point in time, like I said, it'd be a little bit shorter game. We'd get some good role play out of it. I hope it was enjoyable for you guys, and you got to learn a little bit more about each other's characters.
Allian does not swim.
But that is where we will leave off for the night. So, for anyone out there who's actually watching our crazy little adventures, I want to thank you for tuning in. Hope you had fun watching. No, it wasn't a like a huge exciting battle scene, but I hope this was kind of a fun little insight view of the characters themselves, and hopefully we'll get some more fun role play like this going on during the rest of the campaign. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week, I hope. Bye.
You still need to tell her